Hey, thanks for coming to sew the Knickerbockers with me. If you don't already have your pattern, it is available in my Etsy shop. It's Opal 71, and I'll drop a link down below in the description. So go grab your pattern and then come back and we'll be ready to start. You can just pause the video. All right, so if you've got your pattern, I have mine here. I've taped everything together. When I do my patterns, I will keep my original pattern intact, and I like to trace everything out on, sorry for the rustling, on freezer paper. That's what I like to use to work from. So, to be able to show you things easier, I'm going to go ahead and move this big pattern out of the way. We will set it right there. And we're going to work from the freezer paper patterns. This one that I've cut out is a size B. That's what I've chosen for my size, my body. And you'll notice in the instructions, it tells you that you're going to want to add 10 inches to your actual hip measurement. So you can see we have the finished sizes. Now the finished waist sizes go from 46 to 58. You have to keep in mind that you want these to be a very loose fitting garment, and these have a drawstring. So most of that is going to get drawn up in that drawstring. But you want to make sure that you have enough in your hip area. I was trying to think of a word. Enough what? I don't know. You just need enough. But again, you don't want these to be like a tight fitting. These are not a tailored garment. So what I suggest you do is measure your hips. My hips are right around 50 inches. So if I add 10 to that, that puts me right at 60. And on the instructions, it says size B finishes at a 58 and size C finishes at a 63. So I could kind of choose to go either way. If I wanted them to be a little bit looser than normal, I would probably go with a C. If I wanted them to fit a little bit narrower, but still with plenty of room, I'm still going to have 8 inches of ease if I go with the size B. So I'm going to choose on, actually I'm going to make 2 pair today. We'll talk about that later, but they're both going to be a size B. Okay? So go in, measure your hips, and choose your size. So let's talk about the length. That's been a big topic. Some of you that follow me on Facebook, you've probably seen the comments about height and length and how can I lengthen these. So we'll go ahead and jump right into that section of it. You can see that I've got a finished length, and that's going to be the waist, the top of your waist to the hem. And from size A to size D, they go from 31 inches to 32.5 inches, which is not real long. However, when I designed these, I intended them to be a cropped pant and to fall, these fall about mid-calf on me, so that way if I have a boot with some socks, some boot socks under them, you're still going to see the full boot. You're going to see some of the boot sock peeking out. That was the look I was going for. Now, there are a lot of you that want these to be full length. Sorry, the air conditioner just kicked off. It's gonna, we're into fall, but we're still in the 90s, so it's still kind of warm here. So I apologize if that's bothering you. Anyways, so if you're wanting to lengthen these, you certainly can. Oh, where I was going with that. These fall about mid-calf on me. And I actually remeasured myself last night. I am down to right at about 5'4.5", 5'5". but I'm very short-waisted. I have long legs. However, I'm shrinking terribly. That's a whole nother story. Anyway, so maybe kind of use that as a comparison, or just take you a tape measure and drop it from hold it at your hip and drop it down and see where this is going to fall on your calf to decide how much you need to add. Now, if you are only needing to add, say 6 inches total. Let's say you're sewing size C, which is 32 inches, and you want them to be 38 inches. What you can do, this is our front and back piece. What you can do is in between this front pocket area and your crotch curve here in this area, you can go ahead and add, I would say 2 to 3 inches and be fine. That is going to drop your crotch further down, so keep that in mind. But a taller person, you're probably going to need more length through there anyway. So you can just split this in half here, separate that out. Now also down here in the leg area, you could add a couple of inches here as well. Again, maybe 2, maybe 3 inches. The problem you're going to run in, bless you, Cameron sneezed. The problem you're going to run into with adding length in this leg area is that this isn't the full leg, if you will, because of the gusset. This is the gusset piece. This gusset piece gets sewn in here. Well, there's our mark. It's going to get sewn in here like this, okay? And so you can see that this gusset piece gives you width in your leg. If you have this gusset piece here, let's see if I can show this, and you simply extend the leg down, you can see you're going to have all this fullness up here in your crotch, and you're going to end up with this really skinny leg. So to remedy that, what you want to keep in mind, if you're lengthening anything down here in this gusseted area, is for every inch you add in length to the leg, you're going to want to add half of that to this gusset width, okay, because this gusset is folded in half, and you want to split that out. So let's say many of you saw the ones that Karen Klein had made, and we actually added 6 inches to this leg piece. So I added 6 inches, split this apart, added 6 inches, and then on the gusset piece, I split it in half, spread it out 3 inches. Okay? So that is how I choose to lengthen these knickerbockers. I think that gives you a more proportioned fit in the end. Again, you're not just stretching, down here at the bottom or stretching at the top and dropping the crotch too far. If you do it this way, you're going to be able to keep the proportions, okay? So just a quick recap. You can add a few inches here in the hips. You're all fine. You could add an inch or two down here at the hem. You'll be fine. If you're adding more than that, you're going to want to add length in the leg area. And whatever length you add here, you need to add half of that length to the width of this gusset. Okay? And if you have any questions about that, feel free to message me on whatever platform, and I'll try to help explain that a little bit more. Okay. So, like I said, I'm going to be sewing 2 pair today. And the reason for that is I want to show you the instructions. I really didn't get into it too much because, gosh, I could put so much detail in those instructions that it'd be a book. And nobody wants to read a pattern like that. And then some people know if they want raw edges, what they're going to do. If they want a finished edge, what they're going to do. So, but what I'm going to do is show you 1 pair with finished seams and 1 pair with some seams raw. I'm not going to do all of them, but I like to leave some of the seams raw. So I'm going to show you both variations there. Okay, so let's talk about fabrics. My two fabrics are very close, very similar to each other. And I'll just show you these here. These are the fabrics I've chosen to use. The instructions tell you, you know, suggested fabrics are going to be any medium weight linen, cotton, denim, corduroy, a light canvas. If you like knits, I say why not try it? I'm not really a big knit sewer, so I'm more wovens. But if you're a knit person, hey, give it a shot. For winter, I've got some oh, what do you call it? It's not really flannel, but it's not fleece. I guess it is a flannel. That I'm gonna sew it for pajamas for this winter in flannel. So try it, see how it goes. But any woven, this is gonna work well for any woven fabric. What I have is I've got this toile, and this is kind of a medium weight canvas. So that's what I'm going to be using for this one. That's one pair. This one I'm going to do the finished edges on, finished seams. The next fabric I have is this fabric. It's a quilting cotton, and my mind just went blank. Let me grab that real quick so I can tell you. Oh, there we go. It is Alexander Henry. That was the name I was trying to think of. It's the Alexander Henry Deadwood Saloon. And again, those of you that follow Karen Klein have seen hers made from this fabric. She's made quite a few things from it. And it is so super cute. It's got these little, oh, there's my camera. Got these little skeletons. It's just a cute fabric. So we've got quilting cotton. We've got canvas. Like I said, you can use denims. Oh, this one is, I don't have a name on this fabric. This one I got from an antique store. I don't know anything about it, to be honest. There were no salvages left that I could get the name from. So that's just one I picked up. Anyway, so fabric choices, you know, that's kind of the guidelines I would use for choosing your fabrics. Really, there's not a lot. If you thrift, you could definitely use any upcycled fabrics you wanted. All right, so let's move along and let's talk about the actual pattern pieces. So you should have your main body piece, which we have here. Let's set that aside. Move my instructions. Set that aside. The next pieces you're going to have are, you're going to have your, I call this the pocket lining. You're going to have 2 pocket linings. You're going to have 2 pocket back pieces. These are your front pockets. You're going to have back pockets. I like 2 back pockets. Some people, you know, you may want just 1 back pocket. You may want no back pockets. So this is optional. You can obviously do back pockets or not do back pockets. That's up to you. You're going to have your, oh, is that? No. Your waistbands. I've got those cut out. You're also going to have this little square here, which is your buttonhole reinforcement. You're going to have your leg cuffs. You're going to have 2 of those. Oh, I forgot the gussets. Well, we pulled the gussets out a minute ago. You're going to have your gusset pieces. Keep organized here. There's my gusset pieces. We're going to have 2 gussets. Okay. And then there's a couple of optional pieces. There is this optional knee patch. Up to you whether you want to do that or not, or you might want to put it somewhere else. You might want to put a million patches and put them in all different directions. That's totally up to you. But I've provided a knee patch and a little ankle patch. Okay. And on one pair, let's see, on the 12 pair, I'm going to use that for my patch, just the same fabric. But on the On the Skelly print, I'm going to go with black just so that my patches, let me see if I can pull this over here, just so my patches will contrast. I think that'll be a cool look. Okay, so I think we're all set on sizing, picking your size. I think we're all set on choosing your fabrics, cutting out your pattern pieces. So I think we are ready to start sewing. All right, so all the seams on this pattern are a 1/2 inch seams, unless there's an area where I tell you, oh, hey, sew this with a 1/4 inch, but otherwise everything's going to be a 1/2 inch seam. And finish all your seams. You know, if you've got a serger, you can serge them, zigzag them, whatever's easiest for you. Okay, so the first thing, sorry, I got stumped there for a second. Like, what did I say do? Anyway, the first thing that that the instructions tell you is that we're going to decorate, and that's when I start with a pattern. That's usually the first thing that I do. Is I do all of my patching. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to hit you guys. I do all of my patching. Yeah, this is my front. I do all of my patching, anything decorative, because it's always easier to work on a flat piece of fabric. So I'm going to pretend that you're doing everything exactly as the pattern shows. So we are going to put our patches on. So this first patch, I'm going to keep in mind that I'm going to have the seam allowance down here at the bottom. This is the leg piece of my front, my pants front. So about a 1/2 inch of this. So I'm going up about 2 inches from the bottom hem here. And I am just going to lay this across here. Throw a few pins in it. This is not anything exact. Again, it's just, this is your decoration. So again, do what you want, pin things where you want them. Just use your imagination, make it yours. That's, to me, that's the joy of sewing. All right, so that was on our left leg. On our right leg here, I've got another black patch. You could see that. I love that freezer paper. It just peels off. So on the knee patch here, I'm going up, let's see, 1, 2, 3, about 6 inches up, and I'm just kind of centering it. Just kind of centering it here. I may come down a little bit. Let's see. Most of this on my patching and stuff, I just kind of eyeball things. I look at it and see, you know, about where I'm comfortable. I think it looks, and that looks good to me. So I'm going to pin that on there. And now on these, even on the finished seam one, I am going to leave these raw for the patching. But the stitch that I use around the edge is going to be a, well, I'll probably use a decorative stitch, but it's going to be a stitch that's going to catch, you know, more than one row of the threads in the fabric so that it's not going to unravel too much. All right, so I've got my patch pinned down. We're going to go ahead and talk about the next step as well. And then I'm going to go sew these down. Well, actually, you know what? I take that back. Let's stay focused. Y'all got to forgive me because I can get way sidetracked way easy. Let me go sew my patches on, and I'll come back, and we'll go from there. See you then. All right, I'm back, and I have the patches sewn on. Hopefully you can see here. Well, I'll show you this one. You can see it better. But I've got the knee patch on that side. I've got the ankle patch down here. This is the pair that I'm doing the enclosed seams on. This is the pair I'm doing the raw seams on. This one is the one I also did the contrasting patches. And on this one you can see, like, because the patch is raw edged, any of the stitches that you do along this edge need to be either a zigzag or have some width to them, so they're grabbing more of these threads on the edges so it doesn't just continue to fray. Another thing I like to do is put some kind of stitching on the patches. I like the texture that it gives. That's totally up to you. You do your patches how you see fit, or don't do patches at all. Again, that's an option. And then here's my ankle patch on the left leg. Okay, patches. We are done with patches, unless, you know, I mean, like I said, go out on your own, put patches where you want. This is where I've decided to put them. All right, next step is, let's move that out of the way. Let me get organized. The next step is we are going to edge finish the long curves of the pocket lining and the pocket backing. Okay, so this is the pocket lining piece. It's going to look like this. And all you're going to need to do is serge or edge finish. Make sure I'm in the camera here. Serge or edge finish these long curves. Okay? That you can see there, I've serged. For this pair, done the same thing. So do that on your pocket lining piece, and then on the pocket back piece you're going to do this long curve here, which again I've done on these pieces. Okay, so finish off both of those two pieces, and then we are going to get ready to sew those pocket pieces on. So this is the front of our pants. Got a wrinkle there. Let me get it back in the screen. There we go. This is the front of our pants. And with the right side facing, we are going to pin the front pocket lining, which is this piece here, okay, that we just edge stitched. We are going to pin with right side facing the front pocket lining to the pant. Okay, so we're going to pin right along this edge here. Grab a couple of pins. Now again, this pair is how the instructions are written, which will have the enclosed seams, not raw edges. I'll show you that one here in just a minute. So, pin this down, 1/2 inch seam allowance. You're going to sew these two pieces together right here. Once you do that, I've already done it on this other side so I can show you. Get reorganized. This is such a big piece. It's harder. This is harder to do than you would think. Anyway, so let me see if I can get this laid back out here. There we go. Okay, so this is the other side, and you can see that I've sewn this edge here. You're also going to want to clip that curve. Just run you some clips on there so that when you fold it back into place, it's going to lay nice and smooth. So, stitch it down, and then you're going to fold it around after you've clipped your curves. Give it a press. Okay. And it doesn't tell you in the instruction, well, it does say top stitch. That's kind of an option. I do like to go back and top stitch this. I keep thinking I'm out of the camera, you guys. I do like to go back and top stitch this. You don't have to. That's up to you. I like to, just because I like the look of it. Okay? Now, if you are doing the raw edge version, you are going to place your pocket pieces differently. Okay? So, instead of placing them with right sides facing, like we did a minute ago, we are going to place them. I'm trying to figure out the best way to show you this. There we go. Place them with wrong sides facing. Okay? Just like that. We want our wrong sides facing because we're not going to flip this back. Okay? All we're going to do is sew this edge here. And again, since we're doing a raw edge, we want to make sure we're either using a zigzag stitch or a decorative stitch that's going to grab more of the threads of the fabric so they don't fray too much. Okay? So we're going to just stitch this and leave it raw. And I'll show you on this side. This one I've already done. Here's what it looks like from the back. Okay, and you can see it's already started to fray a little bit just from me handling it. And then from your front side, it's going to look like that. Okay, and again, I hope you can see that. Let me hold it up and see. Might be hard to see. I've just used a decorative stitch that kind of goes over and grabs to the left, grabs to the right, so that I'm getting more threads of the fabric in there. Okay, that's raw edge. All right, so we will be back to move on to the next step. Okay, now that we have our pocket lining sewn down, I've pressed it to the wrong side. I've top stitched. I don't know if you can see that or not. Top stitched around it. I just think I like how it gives a cleaner finish there. Anyway, I've got that done. The next step is with the wrong side of your pants facing up, which we have, we are going to layer our pocket back piece, which is this piece. We're going to layer our pocket back piece on top. Okay, and it should match up pretty well like that. Okay, we're going to pin this in place and we are going to stitch it down right along this finished edge all the way around. Once I get to this top section up here, a lot of times I'll go ahead and baste all of these, I hope I'm in the camera, baste all of these pieces together on this edge, and then also on this side edge I'll go ahead and baste here as well, just to hold those together, so when we attach the front and the back later it'll make that easier. And when I baste these two pieces, or these two sections, I will do it over in the seam allowance. That way I don't, run the risk of that basting. I don't have to go back and take it out, or it's not going to show. So again, put your backing on, pin it down, and you're just going to stitch this curve here. Okay? This is going to be the same whether you're doing the raw edge or the finished edge pant. So this pair I have already done for you. So I placed it wrong side, and you can see I've stitched around that edge. So from the front, it looks like this. You got your pocket. Oh, I didn't baste that side. See, that's why you should baste those sides. This one, I think I basted the other side. Anyway, so you've got your pocket here. Now, that stitching line you will see. Let me see if I can hold this to make sure you can see that. You can see where I've stitched all the way around this pocket here. I hope you can see that, that little stitching line right there. If you do not want to see that stitching line, there is an option. I personally like it because when you're wearing the pants, it keeps all of this together. You don't have this pocket inside flopping around. It just holds it all together, and I like how this looks. If you don't, you do have an option. When you put your pocket backing on and you go to pin, don't pin it to the front. Only pin these two pieces together. You can pin here all the way around, and then when you stitch it, how do I show you this? Here we go. Oh, now I done unlined everything. But I hope you can see. You would hold this in your machine as such, just to stitch these two pieces together and not stitching them to the front. Okay? That's the other option. That way your pocket, if you do it that way, your pocket is just going to it's going to be sewn to itself, but it's just going to dangle here inside of your pants. Okay? So whichever you prefer on that, whether you want to keep your pocket just dangly in there where you don't see the stitching on the front, or just go ahead and stitch through all 3 layers and get that little stitching on the front, which again, I kind of like the detail of that, of seeing that stitching along the front. Okay, so that was step 4. Let's get that one done, and we'll meet back here in just a few minutes. All right, so now we've got our pockets finished, and you can see I've got a nice little pocket here on this pair. This pair, we have our same pocket, but we've got the raw edge finish. Okay, that's all we're going to do on our front pieces for now. So I am going to set these aside, and we are now moving on to step 5, which is the back pockets. So if you are omitting your back pockets, I'm going to try to leave timestamps in the description so you can fast forward through to where you need to be if you're skipping back pockets or whatever. I was reading yesterday about timestamps and how you'll see some YouTube videos that'll have it'll automatically skip you into the next section. I haven't tried that, but I was reading somewhere it was saying if you don't have 1,000 followers on your YouTube, which I don't, but if you don't, you can't do timestamps. Not sure why, but anyway, so at least I'll try to put the numbers. It may not automatically skip you forward to the next section, but I will try to put the timestamp numbers down below in the description so that you can fast forward through the sections that you may or may not need. All right. Ha! So, moving on to back pockets. This is step number 5. And the first thing it says is you want to edge finish all 4 sides of your back pocket. So, I've just run a serge around all 4 sides of my pockets. Okay? Now, you're going to fold the top edge towards itself like this. On your pattern piece, you're going to have this fold line here. That's what you're going to be folding on. I just eyeballed this a second ago, but yeah, so about right there. You're going to fold that down, give it a little press, and then what you're going to do then is just stitch these sides. Stitch this side and stitch this side. Okay? And when you do that, let me fold this right side back out. When you do that, you will have, this one I've already pressed, so it's going to look a bit funny, but you're going to have something that looks like this. These side edges here are now secured. Okay? And I left my scissors over there. Y'all, I'm so unprepared sometimes. There we go. Anyway, so once you fold that down, you're going to have something that looks like this. Your side edges are stitched. You're going to want to trim these little corners. That's going to reduce the bulk so that when we flip this right side out, you'll get these nice little square corners. Okay? So you're going to fold this right side out, and then all you're going to do is you are going to fold these edges in and press them, which I've kind of pre-pressed these like so. Okay, so you have something that looks like this. The only other thing you're going to want to do is stitch this down. And you can do it from the right side. You'll be able to kind of feel where that ledge is. You just want to run a stitch across here. Okay? And then your pocket will be ready to sew onto your pants. Okay? That's if you want a finished edge. Now, if you want a raw edge, it is way much simpler. All you're going to want to do on your pocket piece is edge finish the top edge using your same guide here. You're going to want to fold on this line, just fold it over towards the back and stitch it down. That's it, because we're going to leave these outer edges raw, so we're just going to place this on our pant and stitch it down and leave this to fray. So, and you can see on this one, again, I did that little decorative stitch there. So this one's ready to sew on. I think I am going to add a little patch down here or something, but that's just one of those little decorative things. And I hope when you're sewing that you get to certain parts and you go, ooh, this would be really cool if I did this, and you branch out and do that thing, you know, because that's what makes each of these pieces your own. So, all right, I am going to finish preparing these pockets and then we will place them on the back of the pant. All right, we are back, and hopefully you have finished preparing your pockets and you have found the pocket placement guide on your pattern, laid your pockets down, stitched them on, and you should have two really cool back pockets. This one is the raw edge pocket. So I just did my decorative stitching, and you can see this little edge that's already fraying a little bit. When I wash these, that's going to fray up. I'll have to come back and trim the strings, but that's just going to give some texture around the pocket, and I like how that looks. I stuck me a little patch on there. This is the pair I'm going to keep, so, you know, I can do them how I want them. So I stuck me a little patch on there that I liked, and yeah, so that pair is ready to move on. This is the finished pair. So again, same placement guide. You're just going to center these because these are going to be smaller since you have that hem underneath. These pockets, if you're finishing out the hems or the seams, these pockets are going to come out smaller. So you're just going to center these inside of those markings on your pattern. But again, you've got a finished edge here. Your little pockets are sewn down. That's it. So we are ready to move on to the next step. I'm going to turn the pants sideways for this because I think it'll be easier to stay in frame this way, since we're going to be working with kind of a longer area. So this is the top of the pant. This is the bottom of the pant. Oh, one other thing I was going to show you, and it just caught my eye here. This is a vintage fabric that I got from the antique store. And as I was sewing, I noticed a little spot right here that was kind of worn. This fabric did come off of a bolt, but I don't know where it's been. I don't know what it's seen in its lifetime. So it needed a little love and care right here. So I just put this little patch on the back, and I've zigzagged around it so it doesn't continue to fray, and then just did some back and forth stitching to reinforce that area. So we have now what we call visible mending. Anyway, it just caught my eye when I flipped them over, and I did want to tell you about that because that's one of those things that, you know, I have cut into my pants or my dresses before, like literally cut into the middle of them when I was trimming a seam somewhere else or done crazy things like that, and thought, oh my gosh, I've just ruined this complete thing. And in all honesty, you haven't ruined it. Patch it and then make it look intentional. Anyway, so we are ready to move on to step number 6, which is the gusset. You should have 2 gusset pieces cut on the fold, and we're going to pin this down. So what you're going to use for your reference is your center here on your pant. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure that I got everything in view for you here. And you guys, thank you for all your grace and sticking with me through this. I'm trying to learn the best ways to do these things, and sometimes it looks easier than it is. Anyway, so you have your fold line here. Stick a pin there just so I can see it pretty easily, but you guys might not be able. That's a bent pin. Anyway, I'm gonna stick a pin in here so you can see that a little bit easier. So that's where the fold is there. And then on my gusset piece, here's where my center fold line is. And the instructions are gonna tell you with right sides together, you're gonna pin your gusset along the long curved edge, which is this edge here, your big hump edge. Basically, this is gonna fit in here like this, okay? But we gotta do it right sides together to encase our seams. So what I like to do is, you have a marking down here at the end towards the cuff of your pant. I just clip my markings so I know where they're at, just into the seam allowance. You've got this mark here, and that is where you are going to place the end on my mark. Place the end of this gusset. You have to be careful when you're working with these curves, because they are on a bias, the fabric really can get stretchy. And so depending on how you line things up, one minute you can try to line it up and go, oh my gosh, this is way too big, it's never gonna fit in here. And then you start repinning again and you're gonna go, oh, this is way too small, I don't have enough. If you start at one end and you just pin, you're probably gonna end up in that situation where you're like, hey, this isn't lining up, because no matter how hard you try, you're probably gonna be putting some stretch on these fabrics. And again, being on that bias, they're gonna stretch. So the way I like to do it is I go ahead and pin on this end, and then I'm gonna pin my centers here, right there like that. And then I actually hold, I hope I'm in frame, hold the two pinned parts, and I just gently pull. Okay, just gently pull, and you can see these are the two seams that we're going to need to sew together. This one's obviously one's concave and one's convex. Let's see if I remember which is which. Anyway, so you've got one curving this way and one curving this way, right? But we need them to match up. So I just kind of line it out, give it a little tug, and they're going to fall where they want, you know, as far as lining themselves up. Sometimes I get a little shake. And then I can see this is going to go here. So I'll pull that up and pin it. And then again, this is a little bit straighter edge down towards the ankle, so it's a little bit easier. So I go ahead and just kind of ease this in. So I think that's good. I don't need to pin that part. Don't really need to pin any more there. Around this curve, I'm going to put way more pins. Kind of straighten this out some. Hang on a second. This is, to me, this is probably the most tedious part of these pants. This pair and the Saatchi had the same similar curve. And sewing these curves is always, you see how when I stretch that, they just kind of line themselves up, and then I grab in the middle, and that's where I'm going to pin it. I always feel like this is kind of a tedious part. I don't know that it is. It's just, I guess in general, I'm not a pinner, and so anytime that I have to like really concentrate and make sure, oh, Donna, you need to pin that, I'm like, ugh, that's going to take too long. So I know some people say they pin everything, and I'm like, oh my word, I couldn't. I guess I don't know. I don't know what I am. But anyway, that's, so I hope you can see this. It's not going to lay flat right now because, well, if I turn it over, you can see how it's going to lay. But it's eased in. All right, so then we're going to do that to the second side over here. Same thing, and you're going to have to kind of fold this up because you're going to need that give in the fabric to bring this around. So again, I'm going to find my little notch right there. I am going to line this up right there on my notch and put a pin. And once again, I'm going to hold this pin. I'm going to hold the pin that's at the middle. Give it a little shake, shake it, shake. And then I just kind of walk my hands in. And I know this is going to need to be here. It's not going to be down here or up here. So I just kind of walk it across to there. It's kind of like finding the middles almost, if you will, the centers. And again, this, you know, you guys, if you have a better way of doing this, certainly do it the way that it works for you. This is how it works best for me to be able to get everything situated the best, or how I feel it's the best, you know, as evenly as I can. But hey, you guys might have an even better way and might call me and go, hey, you know what, you should really try it this way. And I'll be like, woo, thanks. So, because we all learn from each other. All right, so then I've got this real curvy part here. So I'm gonna do the same thing we did before, just kind of pull it out, ease this on in, put me a pin, and of course up here in this curvy part, I'm gonna put a couple of pins, so put that one there. My allergies have been really bothering me the last 2 days. I know it's fall here right now, depending on when you're watching this video. It's September 24th, I think, for me. And we're technically fall, and we've been cooler in the mornings, but like right now, I think it's probably 93 outside. And I think going from, when we're hot all the time, it doesn't bother me as much. But when we go from cool to hot to cool to hot to cool to hot, it kind of tears up my allergies and my sinuses. So if I sniffle, that's what it is. All right, all pinned up. So, and obviously I can't lay this back because the curves, but you can kind of see how once it's sewn down, you're gonna now have this crotch curve. Okay, so we're gonna do this. I'm gonna take this to the machine, and I am going to sew all around this curve that I just pinned all the way around. And we're going to do this for the front and the back. Now, I know I said I was making 2 pair, one with an enclosed seam, which is this one, and then one with a raw edge seam. I don't really, sometimes I do and sometimes I don't put a raw edge seam here. On this pair that I'm making with the skeletons, I don't, let me move this out of the way. I don't think I want a raw edge seam there or on my side seams. I mainly just wanted the raw edges at the pockets and around front pockets, back pockets. Probably down here at the trim when we get to that, I'll leave a raw edge. And also when we get to the waistband, I'll leave a raw edge. But on these main construction seams, on this one, I'm going to go ahead and do it just like I did that last pair. If you want to do this as a raw edge also, you certainly can. I have done it in the past. It works just fine. The only thing that you're going to need to do is, instead of placing right sides together, where's my gusset for this one? Here it is. Excuse me. Instead of placing right, see, those allergies, you're going to place wrong sides together. So you're going to go just like this and do the same steps that we just did the opposite way. That's the only difference. And so then when you open it up to the right side, you're going to have your raw edges hanging out. Okay? All right. Let's go install the gussets. Install the one to the front, install the one to the back, and then we will meet back up and see where we go from there. We are back, and you should now have something that looks like this. Your little gusset should be sewn in. One thing I wanted to talk about is once you stitch your gusset seam, the instructions say to press the seam allowances down. And normally my instinct would say, hey, I think I should press those upwards. But the reason that I like, now you, obviously these are your pants, you do what you want. But the reason I like to press it down is because this is going to be, let's see if you can see where we're at here. Here's our gusset, here's our pant. This is down at the leg seam. And this is where we're going to join the front to the back at the bottom of the gusset. And you can see if I press this up, I'm going to have a weird wonky spot here. So press the gusset down. That way when I put the, let's see, these are the front. When I put front and back together, I have a cleaner edge here. And you guys, I dyed my hair yesterday, so that's not dirt. It's dye. I dyed myself. Ugh. Anyway. Back to what we were at. All right, so we've sewn our gusset down, and you can see here I've run a top stitch along that gusset edge. Let me show you on the skeleton pants. Again, I didn't do raw edge on the skeleton pants. I went ahead and did it finished, but let me see if I can get where you can see. But instead of just running a straight top stitch, I did my little decorative stitching just along that seam. I like the look of that. So, all right, our next step says to take your front and your back, and I've tried to zoom out so we can see, but let's see, I'm going to turn my pants sideways here. And what we're going to do is we're going to pin the front to the back with right sides facing. And I hope I don't stick my head in the way, y'all. I'm standing up here. With right sides facing along this outside seam here, right along here. Okay, that's one side. And then we're going to pin the other side seam. Hang on one second, let me get this in frame. We're going to pin this other side seam along here, okay, with right sides facing. And then you can see how our two gussets line up underneath here in the crotch area. So pin our two sides, we're going to stitch them, and then here is, let's see if I can lay this out a little bit better. I don't have it totally lined up. But here's our gussets, and we're going to pin and stitch right along there. Okay, right along this lower edge here. This in your instructions is going to look like this. No, that's when we were putting it on. My bad. Which was a funky drawing. And that's why I think these videos, it might be easier to see it physically laid out. But anyway, that's where we're at now. If this is on the finished seam, so right sides together, pin your side seams, pin your lower crotch, stitch those, top stitch them if you want.
on the skeleton pair, which are the raw edge, again, I don't particularly prefer a raw edge on side seams and like a crotch seam under here. I just don't. That's my personal preference. However, so I'm not going to sew these that way, but I will show you how you would line it up. I mean, you're only, oh gosh, I just knocked y'all in the head again. I'm sorry. Your only difference is going to be, instead of placing your fabrics right sides together, you're just going to place them wrong sides together. Like such. And then, you know, line them up, stitch your seams, and then you've got your raw edge. So go get your side seam sewn. Oh, there's a toothpick. Go get your side seam sewn and your gussets sewn together, and we will be ready to move on to the waistband. All right, so we have our gussets sewn on. We've got them top stitched if you desire. I desire, so I top stitch. We've got our, there is a fly. Do you see him? I had the doors open earlier because we've had some cooler weather, so I guess he decided to come in. Anyway, got our side seams sewn, got them top stitched, and it's starting to look like a real live pair of pants. So that's these. Here are the skeleton ones. Same thing. Now on this one I did my decorative stitching for the top stitching on the gusset and on the side seams here. I just like the look of that. I don't, like I said, you might have left these raw. I choose not to, but I do like that decorative stitch. But anyway, so we are starting to look like real live pants. And we don't have too much to go. So our next step is step number 8, and that is going to be the waistband. So you are going to start with your waistband piece, and you're going to fold it in half, right sides facing, and you are going to stitch this little stitch. Slow down, Donna Kay. Stitch this little short seam here, and that's going to give you a circular waistband. Okay. The next thing you're going to do is we're going to need to make some buttonholes on the waistband for our drawstring to go through. And since we only have one seam on the waistband, instead of centering that, normally I'd center that at the back, but because we have this reinforcement piece, I'm going to center this seam at the front, and I'm going to put that reinforcement piece over it so you won't see it. That way you don't have any weird seams on the front of your pants. So this is your buttonhole reinforcement piece here. We're going to center that over this seam that we just cut, and we're going to zigzag or decorative stitch anything that's going to keep this from fraying right up to this edge. You could technically tuck this under if you wanted to. I usually don't, just simply because this gets so bulky, and because this waistband is actually going to get folded in half. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to have 6 thicknesses there, and then when you sew this to the pant, you're going to have the 7th thickness on the pant. So it gets super, super bulky. But these are your pants, so you do how you want. But I am going to choose to do like this and just do a decorative stitch or zigzag stitch. Okay, once you've got that reinforcement piece on, you are then going to do your buttonholes. Okay, and just use your guide here for your buttonholes. Now, since we're not actually putting a button through them, I think my buttons are 3/4 inch. 5/8 or 3/4 inch buttons, but that's not so important. You just need a buttonhole long enough that's going to accommodate your drawstring. Okay, so once you do that, it is going to look like this. So we have a nifty little waistband. We've got our reinforcement. Now I've done this one in a contrasting because I wanted to. Got our buttonholes sewn in here. Now you're going to notice I've got 2 seams here. You're not going to have these seams. I have them because I was kind of creative cutting and I was running low on fabric, so I had to kind of piece things together. But you're not going to have those. So that is how you're going to prepare your waistband. Once you have your waistband prepared, we are going to get ready to stitch it on. And that is step number 9. Okay, sorry about that. I'm an overthinker and I just totally overthought things and confused myself. It's not hard to do sometimes. Anyway, let's read this again. Step number 9. With the right side of the waistband facing the wrong side of the pant. That's what we're wanting. So this pin here is my center front. I always want to start at the center front because I want to make sure that I'm lining up my drawstring correctly. Okay? So I'm going to place this center seam that's under that reinforcement at the center front of my pants. Actually, I'm going to pin it sideways to show you, because what's going to happen is once we've sewn this seam down, we are going to fold this over to the front like so. Okay? So, pants are inside out. The right side of the waistband is facing the wrong side of the pant. Pin it at the center front. I'm going to flop this over here. Like so. I've got that all twisted, don't I? There we go. Okay, so it's going to look, well, I've got it twisted, but let's see. That's our center fronts. Here's our center back. I don't even... Pin that on. There, and then our 2 sides. I'll go ahead and throw some pins on those. There's that one, and then drop that one out. There you go. Get back in there. Okay, so we have our waistband pinned on. All right. So we are going to go stitch this down, and then, like I said, this will then fold over to the front, like so. So we'll be back in just a minute to do that. Okay, so now that you have your waistband sewn on, it's going to look something like this. From the right side of your pants, you're going to have the wrong side of the waistband. This seam here, I press up, and then your waistband is just going to fold over the top of that. Okay, so it's going to be like this.
And when I fold it down, I fold it just, oh, I got some strings there, just over this. I can see my stitching line, and I'll go just maybe a quarter to an eighth of an inch over that stitching line. And then I'm going to use a zigzag stitch or my little decorative stitch that kind of goes back and forth along this edge. Yes, this will be a raw edge, but it really isn't going to do a lot of fraying because I'm going to be sewing pretty close to it. If you want this to be finished, you can press this down a quarter of an inch before you fold it over. Then fold it over, match it on that line, and stitch down. Again, the only reason I don't really like to do that is because it does get bulky. So, but these are your pants. You do what you are most comfortable with. Again, I just fold it over and then stitch. Okay, once you do that, it is going to look like this. Voila. And now we have a waistband. Let me see if I can zoom this in and show you. So you can see it's a raw edge, but it's pretty well encased. And when I wash it, I'm going to get a little fraying there, but I'm okay with that. So, and then from the inside, I like how it has a pretty clean finish, you know. I mean, you can see my stitching, but it's a pretty clean finish on the inside, and I like that look. The only thing you have left to do then on the waistband is your drawstring. Now, if you're choosing to do elastic, you certainly can do that too. I've gotten kind of used to the drawstrings, and I like that because, well, for one thing, my weight fluctuates so much, so it works out great for me. When you're doing your drawstring, this is just how I do it. I will take my pants and I'll lay them out flat. And I will measure the width and the width. And then I'll give a little extra. Because there's nothing worse than having your drawstring. I mean, you're not going to need this much because they're going to suck in around your body. But when you put them in the washing machine or you go to take them on and off, there's nothing I hate more than if your drawstring, you know, goes back up inside. And this is going to give you that extra to hang down. The other thing I want to mention is how I thread the drawstring through. If you take the end, let me put my pin on here. And you guys, I have to tell you, this safety pin came from my mother's sewing box, even though she didn't sew. But I guarantee you, this was my diaper pin. I'm pretty sure this had to have been like one of my actual diaper pins. You know, because back then we had cloth diapers. Anyway, just a bit of information. Maybe too much information. But that's it. Alright, so if I'm threading in and I'm going to start going around this way, I am not going to start on this hole. I'm going to start on this hole. Okay, so I'm going to go in through here, but I'm still going that direction. Because what's going to happen is then as I come back around, I'm going to pass this up and come out this hole. That's going to put a crossover in here. And let me go ahead and thread this around, and I'll show you why. Bear with me, I'll try to go quickly here. And this safety pin, you know, it's a big one, so it works really quickly. So I guess it served me well in my lifetime. Do you guys have things? Do you have things at your house that were saved? I guess I feel that I'm pretty fortunate that my parents were older, and so they were born in the 1930s, and so they lived through the Depression eras, which it seems we're living through again, to some degree at least anyway.
And so, I mean, they were savers. Things weren't so disposable like they are now. In fact, I'm sitting here, I'm at the lake still, which is our old trailer that they bought in 1971. And there's a baby bed over there, and we've kept it because now I have the grandbabies that come and sleep over, and we still use the baby bed. But that was my original baby bed. It's probably got lead paint. I'm not gonna lie, but anyway, I think I'm not a material person, but I am a very sentimental person when it comes to things like that. So anyway, all right. So I've got these threaded through, and again, this string here goes this way. This string here goes this way. The reason is if these just went in and went opposite directions and you went to pull on this, it's not going to work so well. But because this one is pulling from this side, this one is pulling from this side, when I go to, you see how easy they pull in? So that's just my little tip for threading your drawstrings. To me, that's the best way to thread a drawstring, so they really can do their job. Okay, so I think our waistband is done, and the next step is, or the final. We are at the final step, guys! Yay! The final step is the number 10, which is your lower cuff. Let me take a, yeah, that's it. So for your lower cuff and your lower hem cuff, it's going to be basically exactly the same as your waistband was, without the buttonholes, because you're not going to need to run a drawstring. Although, now that I'm thinking about it, should you want to pull your cups in, I mean, these aren't wide cups, but you could always do that. Anyway, so you're going to fold your lower hem cuff in half, stitch your short edge. It's going to give you a piece that looks like this. Okay, you're going to take this piece and you are, oh, I didn't turn my pants wrong side out. Hang on one second. Let me turn these wrong side out. And since my cuff only has one seam, I am going to place that seam on the inseam of my pants, not on the outer edge, but on the inner edge. Sorry, those are bothering me. I'm going to line that seam up with this this inseam here. Okay. So, and we are going to put, we've got the wrong side of our fabric showing. Let me do some flopping here. And this is our cuff. It's going to go up over here like this. And we are going to match up this center seam of the pant with the seam of our cuff. Just like that. Okay? And we're going to sew around that edge. And then when we turn this right side out, once we've sewn this around, okay, just like that, we're going to sew around it. You're going to have something that looks like this. Okay, when you turn it right side out, you're going to have this raw edge here and the wrong side of your cuff showing. But again, just like on our waistband, we're just going to fold this up over the stitching line. Fold this up over our stitching line. I'll press my seam open there. Fold it up. Almost like you're just turning up a cuff. Fold it up over your stitching line, stitch it down. And then you have a finished, I'm shifting everything here, sorry guys. You have a finished cuff, like so. Okay, that's all there is. I can't think of anything else that we need to talk about. I'll have to go back and sew this cuff down and then finish this pair out. But that's really all there is to the Knickerbockers. You did it! Congratulations! I hope you enjoy them. If you do make them, tag me on social media. Show me what you made. I love to see people's outcomes. I love to see what fabrics you chose. In fact, I mean, this fabric I chose simply because Karen Klein. I love to see what fabrics you choose and where you go with it, you know, what details you add, how do you make them your own. So enjoy, and I'll see you at our next tutorial. Take care, you guys.